call the Agricultural and Rural Affairs Committee to order. The first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. Amy?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second, please.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oppose a like sign. Ayes have it, it's carried. Next item on the agenda is public appearance, and I see no one, so agenda review. Deanna, please.
I have no changes to the agenda.
Thank you, Deanna. Agenda items. Burn Road solar update. I have some information, but it is staff.
Staff doesn't have any additional information this month.
Okay, very good. I've been there often. They've redesigned the drainage. This is their third go at it, and I think they have a plan this time that's going to work. We'll just kind of monitor that. My main goal is I don't mean to badger those guys. They've been real cooperative, but I just want to make sure that when they're done with it, that we don't inherit something that we got to spend a lot of money on. I just assume that we get it set before they finish up and leave there. So that's my goal. So anyway, and they've been very cooperative. They want to get it solved too. So that's kind of nice. Anybody have anything on that at all?
I think it's good. I think we've had a great opportunity here in a year with this much rain while they're working on it, and still they're actively able to try and mitigate it. So
I agree with you 100%.
A little bit of fortune there.
And we can talk later, but you may have to do some things on your part of it to help with some water erosion stuff, but we can talk later. That's not part of this meeting. So, okay. It isn't on the agenda, but I'll ask Deanna. Have we heard anything on the update on the O'Brien solar at all?
Yes, I did hear from the EDF and MG&E team. They are unable to get the landscape materials needed for the project this summer, so they're going to wait until the fall to do the repair and installation.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, that's when it's this hot. I understand that completely. So I've got a couple things to seed down, and it doesn't happen until fall, because if you put it down when it's this hot, it won't grow. You'll just waste it. So, okay, very good. We'll follow up on that as we go forward. So, how about the well ordinance?
Unfortunately, I was not able to get this into your packet, but it's a short draft. Tracy literally handed it to me a half hour ago. And I can share it up here, but let me just kind of walk through.
Yep.
It's very similar to what has been discussed before. And what she is adding, that it is possible to, her proposal is to allow for the well, a replacement well to serve an existing single-family residential home. If that private well to be replaced does serve that existing single-family residential home, so that's item A. Item B is if that existing single-family home is located on the same property as the private well to be replaced. And C, that the nearest corner of the existing single-family home is greater than 150 feet from the right-of-way.
I think the bullet point C.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me if I'm interpreting this wrong, but I feel like So if it's less than 150 feet from the right-of-way, then would they be required to hook up to city water then? Because that seems catchy.
That is what the draft ordinance is saying right now.
Okay, well, that needs to be crossed out.
Okay.
Yeah, I also have an issue with that.
Okay, I'm here to take notes. And
Anybody else have any thoughts on the footages on item C?
I just don't know how it's relevant. I mean, everything else seemed to achieve the mission that we've, or the concerns that we voiced, but
The simplest way is if you have a well that's feeding a house and the cattle or vegetables, that you're allowed to replace it. And when the zoning changes, then they got to hook up.
yeah, this is for agriculture. You need to be also zoned AX, AT, or AS.
Okay. On item 1, it shows one house, or it says one house. Correct me if I'm wrong. How was the wording on that?
Her wording is that of an existing single-family home that meets all of the conditions,
Okay.
A, B, and C. So she was not foreseeing a situation where there would be 2 single-family homes that need to be served by that replacement well. Is that something that is important, that there would be a situation where one well might be serving 2 existing single-family homes?
Yes. O'Brien's.
so that sort of puts a hardship on a property that has a easement for a shared well. If you're sharing a well, it fails, the person with reliance on that well inherits a new problem of having a forced connection to a municipal system.
I have a proposal for how we write this.
Okay.
An existing private well on a property zoned AX, whatever the 3 criteria are, can be replaced upon its failure. Period. Done.
O'Brien's would be an example. Alts also would have been an example previously, but I think they rezoned that into their private. There are 2 lots there now, so that was that's the 2 that come to my mind immediately. So I agree with you, Amy.
Deanna, do you know the reason why C was added?
I can't speak exactly for Public Works, but the thinking was that within 150 feet, many houses along South Saline are set back that far, but yet because they're on residentially zoned lots, that they would be expected to make that connection. So from Public Works position, the 150 feet was a reasonable, was not too burdensome of a requirement if you were within 150 feet to connect to city water.
Okay.
I've got 2 comments on that.
Go ahead, Adam.
One, if you're on South Saline and they're already residentially zoned lots, they don't meet the criteria of
This.
For the
EM3.
for the egg.
Yes.
So they're not an agricultural lot. But then I have a concern when it comes to a distance from a public right-of-way. What about, if Saline, by minimum standards, is a 33-foot road, but anytime there's a CSM done, it's required to move to a 40-foot road. So then it's really now 157 feet from the right-of-way at the time of the purchase of the home maybe. So as right-of-way grows, the distance, allowable distance really shrinks.
Yep, can change.
So is there, I guess I still just don't see any benefit to C. I guess I see why Tracy or Public Works would want to specify some distance, but I don't see the relevance to a private well being replaced, being relevant to distance, but then I have more on 2 when we get there.
Okay. Shelley?
So Deanna, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like this was intended to be a compromise between the default city desire to have everybody on municipal water, but to allow some replacement of a well. Yes. So is this kind of a policy compromise?
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to say it. Of course, when the draft ordinance, when the ordinance came through originally, existing single-family residential homes would have had to connect, even on egg zoning. So from Public Works position, this is a compromise to get us to allow the single-family homes on existing ones on egg property to replace a well and not connect.
Okay.
I don't understand why we need to compromise. I'm totally uninterested in, as a person sitting here on this body, if your well fails and you are zoned AT, AS, or AX, go ahead and replace it. I'm not interested in further discussion on it. If anybody else is, say, but.
Okay. Shelley, any thoughts?
To be honest, I don't know. I guess I would like to know more about the reasons why Public Works and the city's default is to have everybody on municipal water as much as possible. So I hear what you're all saying. It seems very logical to me. But I would just like to know more about the kind of the policy and the science and everything of.
It's a cost burden. It's a money grab.
For
that particular individual property owner, but when those water lines run in front of your house or your property, there's a cost to be borne. And when a particular property owner doesn't make that connection into that line, that cost is shared broader across all the other taxpayers in the city.
in the city.
I think if we're looking at compromises, or if it's on the table for discussion, rather than trying to address that with an arbitrary or maybe calculated, but with a distance requirement, would not an impact fee be more appropriate? Or does that get too close to a Fifth Amendment violation? A takings clause violation.
Yeah, usually those fees aren't charged until you connect.
Yep, that's true.
This will absolutely never affect me. I don't even have internet service where I live.
Yeah.
I don't even get cell phone service. So this will have absolutely zero impact on me ever. But as a person sitting here on this body, I think it's very important to be mindful of others that it may affect. And I'm sorry, but if you have livestock like I do, and you have a well, and you're being told, oh, sorry, you can't replace it, and now you have to spend $15,000 to hook up to municipal water that is not appropriate for livestock, why? Why would we want to do that? Like what? Why?
Well, currently, as long as the ordinance did change, and so right now, you don't have to connect for irrigate for livestock and irrigation.
So then you pay double, which is an undue hardship.
But I think that was your point, right? That you have to put the house in that situation where the water line was going down the street in front of your property. You could keep your well for your agricultural uses
Which
and
you
your
have to
livestock,
replace.
but then you'd have to connect the house
Yeah.
to the city's
So
system.
instead of spending $15,000, a person would have to spend $30,000.
Or more. It would depend on how far set back it is, but I can think of one farm where you're looking at, to run city water back there, you're looking at close to 100,000.
Well, but they're more than 150 feet.
Well, they are.
I guess to
They're much
Tracy's
more.
point.
So, but you're looking at, a pretty substantial burden. And then, so anyway,
Well, I'll make a motion of how we should write this.
okay, go ahead.
And my motion is that if your property is zoned AT, AS, or AX and your well fails, you shall be allowed to replace it.
Is there a second to that motion? Chair can't second it, so one of you will have to second that if you wanted the motion not to die.
Give me a minute to keep reading this.
Say that again, Adam?
Give me a minute to keep reading this.
Just barely.
Yeah, Rogers and George are both out of town, so,
Yep, and so is Nicole.
okay. Yeah, I couldn't get a hold of her, so anyway, but I did talk to most everybody else. So. Been a motion made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. There's one
abstention.
abstention. Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. And the department report, how's everything in your life, Deanna?
Did you want, I did put on an agenda item for the farmland preservation, if you
Oh, yeah.
wanted to talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
let's take a little time and talk about that.
I know that I don't expect to have any, decisions or anything made today. However, I do want to let you all know that I would like to share any potential changes with our state contact by the end of August. That doesn't mean anything's finalized, but they just want to be able to take a look and understand that we're on the right track, mostly.
That's right.
And that said, our current ordinance is certified. I don't think that we are in any position where there's anything significantly wrong with our current ordinance, that it couldn't be certified as is. But I know that this body has discussed potential changes at different points, and so this is an opportunity with this recertification process to make some changes and updates. So, not saying that we have to make any decisions today, but it would be great to have some feedback from this body by the end of August or next month with some solid, we kind of like this direction, we don't like this direction.
Okay.
One of the things that, I was working with in this document was the new farm residents, how Adam Gorman did his property. I've voiced my concerns. I'm not going to go back on that one, rehash all of that. So a couple of this clause is more just a clarification based on the counties. The other thing
That would be on page 2, correct, Deanna?
Yep.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
was looking on page
And you've got the recommendations on the side to the right.
I have some notes on the side.
Okay.
And then in the red text is my edits.
Okay. That will help a lot, thank you.
The clause number 3 is just a kind of more of a clarification. I think the other really big thing to think about, and I probably need to just, we had talked about storage of recreational equipment, motor vehicles, boats. There was at one point, we were having some of those discussions.
That's on page 9,
And
or page 4, I guess.
page
it is.
4
Page 4.
of 9, and I did add that in as another conditional use in
Yep.
this draft. That is allowed in, I'm pretty sure it's in the county's ordinance too.
It is, and I know Town of Verona has it, Town of Dunn has it, so.
So that is something that you might all consider. I know that there has been some discussion about that.
Thank you.
10 falls under a conditional use or a regular?
This one is under a conditional use.
Conditional use, that's it.
Yep.
These are all the conditional uses, correct?
That first
Yeah.
page is the
Goes
permitted uses.
Yep, goes back to
And then,
page 2, it starts a list
Yeah.
of conditional
Yeah,
uses.
page 2 starts the conditional uses.
Okay.
With 10, do you think we can maybe expand that to be something of like operating as a business doing that? I mean, just if you have an accessory building and you're not using it anymore and you have extra space and you lease some of that space to friends or put it on Marketplace or whatever, right now that's covered by 10. But is that the goal, that an empty tobacco shed or hay barn or something like that cannot be used to store neighbors' equipment, friends, non-associated people? Or is it like construction of a storage facility for boats, campers, to profit off of?
So as written, this particular clause, number 10, would not allow for the construction of a new building specifically for a storage business that you would advertise and lease out space. It would allow for a storage of existing accessory farm buildings, and if you wanted to advertise and run a business to do storage, this would allow. But you would not be able to create a new building and do that. So, and then you had another piece of your question was more about friends and family, and I mean, there's nothing. There wouldn't be any reason that would come to my attention. I would assume, as the zoning administrator, if 3 of your buddies are storing their boat there.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
does. Does to me. Shelley?
I have a few things. First, it does look if it's, no, I'm not sure, is this before 2010? Did you write it that way? Okay. It looks like it is a permitted use if the building was up before 2010, under Dane County ordinances. I was just checking that.
Okay.
So I don't know if you cared to add that or not.
I think that makes sense.
Then I have one easy thing and one not easy thing. The easy thing is I would suggest for the agricultural entertainment, because the Dane County ordinance splits it between permitted and conditional use as to whether or not it's under 10 or over 10 a year. So that might be helpful for us to add.
Oh, okay.
What page is that on? Would it be on 2?
I think 2 places, don't
Yep.
we, Deanna, have?
Is it,
Yes, there's
under,
conditional use in permitted and conditional.
is it under 10 events per year? Is that what you mean, Shelley? Or over 10 events?
Right,
Okay.
yeah, the agricultural entertainment.
Sure.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, There's only a
Dane County?
couple. Apple Garden does, and I don't think they do 10 a year. And then there's, on Adams, there's some folks there that will have a
Yeah.
band out there, but that's only 2-3 times a year, so.
And if it's over 10, they can apply for conditional use.
Okay,
Yeah, it's just a split between permitted and conditional. Okay.
Good
but
point.
Then,
Hard one.
what was the difficult part is regarding residences. And I spent way more time than I wanted to, but not as much time to become expert on this. But I was looking at the statutes and the debt cap admin rule and Dane County ordinance. Those are the only three I looked at. And what I found, what I believe is true, is that a permitted use would be a farm residence, and that is defined as occupied by owner or operator of the farm, or the parent or child of that person, or a person who earns more than 50% of their income from the farm. So I finally found out where that 50% came from. And so farm residences are permitted use. But under the state admin code and Dane County, any residence, farm or non-farm, built before 2010 is grandfathered as a permitted use.
I did not know that.
I did
And
not.
then, according to Dane County, you can replace one of those, farm or non-farm, if it's within 100 feet. It's what you added, Deanna.
Okay.
Now, the hinky thing is that under the Dane County ordinance, they say a farm residence built after 2010 is conditional use. It's not under permitted. So, and I think we're bound to be no more liberal than Dane County ordinance, right? Actually, I don't know. I'm going to
I don't know.
Okay. So then, and then,
You can't be less restrictive than a higher body's authority.
right, that's kind of like weird to me. Then for conditional use, that would be under Dane County ordinance, any farm residence built after 2010, or under everything. Dane County is silent then as to a new non-farm residence, but the state statutes in the DAT cap says you can build a non-farm residence after 2010. It's a conditional use, but then it has, I think, the requirements that you put in here, Deanna, about location, size, number of dwelling units, and all of that. So I wrote that up, and I'm handing this to Deanna, who is more expert
Oh, no.
and can
I think
share with legal.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
if this is correct, it might be easier to mimic this than new farm residence and, the way we have it now, because I got confused about farm and non-farm. And the other interesting thing I saw was that for a farm residence, which if it's occupied not by the operator, parent or child, but a different person who owns 50%, well, actually, I'm not sure. It could be true for everybody who's in a farm residence. Anyway, there are income documentation requirements. We've had a lot of discussion about, well, how are you going to know
Yeah.
if it's over 50%? And there are some income documentation requirements under Dane County.
There are, and when I, in a situation in the town of Oregon that I was involved in, when I presented all of the owner's documentation to the county, I asked then for how they were going to maintain the privacy rights of that individual. When because you have social security number, you have income numbers, you have all of your data being stored there, and they did not have a way of storing that in a reasonable fashion that you could guarantee privacy. So they waived it. And anybody, if we asked for that documentation, we would have a similar problem.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's waivable because it's a special requirement in Dane County ordinance, but
They-
maybe within it, there.
somehow
it was
they
pages,
did.
So I didn't look.
Somehow they allow, they just handed back all the documentation, said,
Could be. Okay.
just go away.
Well, sometimes
'Cause
that's
they-
easier, yes.
In order for them to provide that, they weren't going to do that, and they couldn't do that, so.
Okay.
Too many fingers.
Well, like I said, I have copies of this little write-up. If anybody, other than Deanna, who I'm going to foist it upon without her consent, would like a copy, you can have a copy, but that might be silly because it could
this
turn
is
out to be
great.
wrong.
No, this is great. Brad, did you have a thought?
Yeah, so I just want to add a little bit here. The Dane County ordinance would apply to townships that are under Dane County zoning. We do not need to have the same requirements as Dane County, but we do need to be consistent with the state, with the state admin code and the state statutes to have the certified zoning district.
I thought there was something about cities that had to, that did have to get permits for things. So
But the
I'm sure
city
you
is
know
an
more than me, but there
extraterritorial.
is, I did see something in the admin rules.
I'll look into that,
Yeah,
but I'm
maybe.
not aware of any need for us to have a similar requirement as Dane County's certified zoning district for ag preservation. So, I'll look further into that.
I would imagine ours would be very similar because
It mirrors
all of them are going to have to be certified by the state, so.
it mirrors it to a certain point, so.
Yeah, But
Adam,
but
did you have
we can certainly follow up with Dane County too, and just to confirm that, we can vary how exact match. I don't think we exactly match right now.
Most cities don't have a representation of agriculture like this city does too.
This is true, yeah, that is quite
There's
true.
probably only, to my knowledge, and Brad, you may know, or Deanna may know of others, but I know of 3 where there's a substantial amount of agricultural land in the city boundaries, and we're the largest.
Did they used to be
And the
towns?
best, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
Yeah,
course.
and any town, unincorporated town that has their own zoning would be able to come up with their own rules too. And if they have a certified zoning ordinance, they can write their own that complies with the state requirements. But yeah, the county ordinance would definitely apply to any town that kind of forgoes their own zoning and has the county administered zoning. So.
I was pertaining to have I only know of 3 that has a substantial amount of agricultural land. So we're in the minority of municipalities in the state of Wisconsin that has the unique opportunity to have as much ag land as we do. So, anything else to come before the committee? If not, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We're adjourned. Thank you very much.